thought I was gonna fail.
I saw it going down.
Yeah, that's not an easy spot to be in. What are we doing today, Jess?
We are opening up the Old Crow Chessman. That's how it happened.
No! What? What are we gonna do, Jess?
No! Oh, no!
So you've got a bottle of dusty booze. You get it home, right? And what happens? You go to open up the bottle, only to find the cork doesn't come with it. How do we get to the insides of this bottle so that you too can enjoy a glass of 1969 Old Crow Chessman? What is up, my friends? It is your host, Nick Anderson, also known as Amongst the Whiskey, and today I'm going to show you how to open a bottle of dusty booze the right way. The way that's going to make it so that it's hopefully drinkable. A couple of tools you're going to need along the way. A really handy one is an ASO wine opener. This is just a little two-prong tool that I'm going to stick down both sides of the cork. Hopefully that's all I need. Worst comes to worst, we might need a corkscrew. This is not my preferred method because the corkscrew tends to generate a lot of cork particles. Those cork particles fall into the whiskey and then we have to decant really thoroughly, otherwise it can possibly change the flavor of the whiskey. So whenever possible, I like to pull out corks in one piece. So to do that, the ASO is the preferred tool. Another handy thing you can bring to the table is some toothpicks. The toothpicks act as a breakage for your top of your cork. You can insert them in multitude of places around the perimeter of the cork. And that can help break that seal, start to get that process of removing the cork going. Again, this is kind of a last-ditch effort. For me, preferred tool still is going to be the ASO. After that, a little bit of water handy is going to help us. I'll actually demonstrate that right now. So I'm going to dip my finger in this water and I'm going to rub it around the top of the cork. That's going to try to swell up the inside of that cork structure. It's going to try to break some of that stiction and that buildup of just laser welded on cork. The cork is really stuck to the perimeter of the opening here. So what I'm trying to do with a little water is just encourage it to slip free and not be stuck to the walls there. So you can leave a little bit of water in the top for some amount of time, maybe 30 seconds to a minute. And then the final thing I'm going to want to do is actually invert this bottle. Hopefully we don't have a leak. Looks like we're just going to get our water dripping. No, I am getting whiskey back, which is actually good for the opening of this bottle. It means that there is a break in the seal somewhere along the way, so we're actually pretty much ready to get this thing open. Last thing I'm going to want to have is a properly sized replacement cork. I already know from experience that the 1969 Old Crow Chessman is a shoe-in fit for a Elijah Craig. This can be the small batch, your Elijah Craig barrel proof. All the corks are the same and they fit these Chessmen pretty much perfectly. And if we do get some cork pieces in there, what we're going to want to have is a decanting vessel. This can be another empty 750 of your choice. It can be a whiskey bottle. It can just be a clean vase. It can be whatever you have on hand. And then a fine mesh filter. Smaller is kind of better than this one. This is maybe not the most ideal setup, but it is still going to allow us to filter out those cork pieces if we do get them into our whiskey. On these chessmen, especially with a broken cork, I'm pretty confident we're gonna get some broken pieces of cork in there. So I'm gonna decant regardless, filter out those cork pieces, and then we'll pour this right back in the bottle. And from there, we can put our replacement cork in and be ready to enjoy a dram of 1969 Old Crow Chessman. This is National Distillers whiskey. Really cool stuff. I mean, National Distillers is a brand that no longer exists. They got bought up by Jim Beam, and Jim Beam discontinued them. Which is a damn shame, because National Distillers made some spectacular whiskeys for many, many years. You can see this one has a state tax sticker. That's how post-prohibition they were starting to identify whiskeys that actually did have their tax paid. This one obviously also came with a tax strip. You can see that red eagle that was pretty common in the 60s and 70s. Pretty cool there. Obviously is broken off as the top is broken off, but if you were looking for an unopened bottle of National Distillers Old Crow, this Chessman in particular, you'd be looking for that tax strip to be intact. So I think without further ado, it's probably time for us to get this ASO in here. I think we have a really good chance of pulling it out in one piece, given the fact that we got a little bit of whiskey dripping when I inverted the bottle. So let's insert this ASO and see if we can get this cork out in one piece. The way this ASO works is one leg is a little longer than the other. I'm gonna work that longer leg in first, trying to get as close to the wall of the whiskey bottle and try not to push that cork in. So you can see I'm gonna slowly work that in both sides. Again, both prongs of this ASO. Ooh, you can see the cork is actually starting to move downward. That is going to be interesting for us. Hopefully we can get this out in one piece here. This is where I may start to employ some toothpicks. I may try to break some of that perimeter free a little more. If I continue to see this cork go downward, I'm gonna be forced to probably pull out the ASO. I might do so with a little bit of a spinning motion, and maybe the cork will come with, but just because we are seeing that downward motion, we may have to go with the corkscrew method. I'm actually gonna opt for breaking away a little more of this perimeter cork here. This backside seems to want to hold on. And you can do this with a wetted cork or, sorry, a wetted toothpick or just a dry toothpick. But again, I'm just trying to break free that perimeter stuff. If you can get it sort of out of the way before the cork comes out, again, that's going to make it so that that cork chunk doesn't fall back into the whiskey. That can affect your final flavor. But I think with a little finesse and a little bit of actual rotation, just a slight rotation on the ASO, I'm still getting a little bit of binding on the back side of the cork. So we may lose a small piece of this one. Oh, yeah. Okay, just knowing that we had a bit of stiction back here. So that's probably the side that is not leaking the whiskey. So that's good for us to know. You can see this cork is starting to move pretty freely. We could think about trying to get the corkscrew to bind here. You're gonna need a really sharp and high quality corkscrew to get that to work. I would prefer one that has a little bit of a sharp point and one that has a mechanism for extraction, but you can see I'm doing a sideways insertion there, getting that to bite, giving myself a very gentle twist into the cork here. And these old corks love to come out in multiple pieces, not in one, but with soft, gentle delicate hands, I would say just about anything in life is possible. So there you have it. One piece. That's all that is left of this 1969 Old Crow Chessman cork. You can see why they like to leak in transit over time. They are a pretty sharp taper, but that is why I keep a corkscrew on hand as well. The Asso was going to probably push that cork in. It was going to fall into the whiskey, but now you can see we have an open bottle of 1969 Old Crow Chessman. The last thing to do here is you can either take a paper towel or your pinky and just try to pull those cork pieces outwards. You can see I got a few of them on my pinky there. Those last little bits that are trying to hold on to the edge of the bottle, I like to pull those out so that they, again, do not fall back into the whiskey, and so that they don't affect our new cork going in. That new cork is gonna hit some of those chunks, potentially push them back in. So this is a final step for me to make sure that my dusty booze is going to remain drinkable until the day that I finish that bottle. And as always, it can be very handy to have a reference sample as well. So this is another bottle of 1969 Old Crow Chessman. This came from a light pond that Gregory Cloyd sent along. It is the same 86 proof as the one in here. So it's nice to have a reference pour. Be able to tell yourself, is the one that I just opened high quality? Is it potentially spoiled? So first things first is to try your reference sample before you go and try your open bottle. So let's see what we got here. Okay, smells like pretty classic Chessman. Not all bottles are stored the same though, so you will get a variation bottle to bottle on these based on who had them, where they got stored. Did they get stored in direct sunlight, high temperature swings? High temperatures are especially damaging to whiskey. This one smells pretty good. It smells a little bit oxidized at this point, but let's see what the palate says. That is why we open these. My goodness, the butterscotch tones on that are just flawless. They do not make whiskey like this anymore, especially Jim Beam. Do you want to decant it?
Do you think?
Filter it?
Do you think?
It will just introduce a ton of oxidation.
No, I don't want to.
If
you don't think that there's a lot of cork in there, you got it out really nice. Yeah, like that's lovely. You did really good.
I thought I was gonna fail.
I saw it going down.
Yeah, that's not an easy spot to be in.
You did it very gracefully.
All right. Well, let's put our reference sample in that glass.
Okay.
And we'll pour a reference sample of this one. Okay, reference sample out of the way. Let's see how our freshly opened dusty booze tastes. Wow, we got some really nice color here. No haze, no floating particles, nothing that's telling me that this is going to be undrinkable. You can see it's just some really oily, viscous legs on that. I think that's going to be a tremendous whiskey. And the nose agrees. This is why we open these bottles, folks. Cheers. Oh, wow. That's special. That has some fruity characteristics that I don't traditionally get out of Old Crow Chessman. It still has that same butterscotch that our reference sample had, but honestly, this is even better preserved than the reference sample. This is a spectacular bottling of the Old Crow Chessman. And that's why we open these things, folks. To enjoy, to do palate calibration with, to sip and share with our friends and loved ones, and to teach you a little bit about history. That's why we want to drink National Distillers whiskey. So you can find out why whiskey made in the old low and slow methods was sometimes better than the whiskey being produced today. Not all the time, but this is definitely an example of the old low and slow methods producing a fantastic whiskey. But now you know how to open a bottle of Dusty Booze. Let me know down in the comments if you have a bottle of Dusty Booze that you need to open. See if these tips and tricks helped. The ASO is, again, my preferred tool, but the corkscrew saved the day today. Really fun. You never know what you're going to get with these experiences, but like I said, slow, patient, delicate hands are going to get the cork out in one piece. You too can achieve this. But that is going to do it for today, my friends. Until next time, keep it amongst the whiskey.